Let me ask you something. Are you living or are you just existing? See, there's a difference, a big one. Existing is waking up, going through the motions, just getting by living. Living is waking up with fire in your soul and purpose in your heart. And I'm here to tell you, you're not stuck. You're not cursed. You don't need a miracle. You need to change your habits. Because the life you dream of, it's on the other side of your discipline. Let's talk about 7 habits that if you change them can transform your life from average to exceptional. You know what the snooze button really is? It's not just a few extra minutes of sleep. It's not about comfort. It's not about rest. It's a quiet negotiation between you and your future, a delay on your destiny. Every time your hand reaches out to silence that alarm, what you're really saying is, not yet. I'm not ready. I'll show up later. And the worst part, your future listens. Your dreams hear you. And they start to shrink, little by little, every time you choose delay over discipline. See, the snooze button is symbolic. It's not just about mornings. It's about the moments when you could step up but don't. It's about the opportunities that knock and you pretend you didn't hear. It's the fear that whispers, you're not good enough, and instead of standing up and proving it wrong, you pull the covers over your head and say maybe tomorrow. But tomorrow never brings change unless today demands. I want to challenge that idea we've all been fed, that hitting snooze is harmless, that staying comfortable is safe, because comfort zones are rarely comfortable. They are often silent prisons, lined with routines and fears that disguise themselves as peace. The longer you stay in them, the harder they are to escape. And while you're there, life keeps moving. The world doesn't wait. Time doesn't pause just because you did. A study from the University of Westminster found that people who woke up earlier weren't just earlier, they were more proactive, healthier, and less stressed. But here's the thing. It wasn't because they had more time. It was because they had more intention. They weren't just awake. They were alive. There's a difference between waking up and getting up. And there's a massive difference between being alive and actually living. Let's make something clear. You don't have to be a morning person, club hype, or some impossible discipline. It's about waking up in the deeper sense, waking up to your potential, to your power, to the life that's waiting for you if you just stop sleeping on it. Because that's what dreams become when you don't act on them. Sleep. Imagination with no action, potential with no plan, passion with no pursuit. Think about the dreams you once had, the ones that lit a fire in your chest. Maybe it was starting a business, writing a book, learning a skill, changing careers, finding love, making peace. Now think about how many of those dreams are still sitting quietly on the shelf because you told them to wait. I'll start when I have more time. I'll try when I feel more confident. I'll go for it once everything is perfect. But perfection is a myth. Confidence is a result, not a prerequisite. And time isn't something you find. It's something you make. You don't need more time. You need more courage, more clarity, more urgency. This isn't about hustle culture or grinding every hour. This is about giving your life the respect it deserves. It's about honoring the fact that you have one shot at this, and it's not promised to last forever. It's about realizing that the alarm clock isn't just telling you the time, it's calling you to purpose. Every great dreamer you admire, every creator, every leader, every world changer, you think they didn't feel the pull of the snooze button? You think they didn't want to roll over and say just 5 more minutes? Of course they did, but they had something stronger than comfort. They had a why, a reason to get up, a reason to move, a reason to keep going, even when it hurt, even when it was hard, even when it made no sense. And that reason made the difference. Because when your why is big enough, your excuses become small. When you remember what you're fighting for, it becomes harder to quit. When you see how many people are counting on you, even the version of you in the mirror, it starts to matter. That version of you who believed anything was possible. The one who dreamed big before the world said be realistic. The one who didn't know the limits yet, and so lived without them. That version still exists. But every time you snooze your calling, you silence that voice. You dull the vision. You bury the dream under deadlines and doubts and distractions. So I'm not just asking you to stop hitting snooze on your phone. I'm asking you to stop hitting snooze on your life. You were not born to live on autopilot. You were not made to blend in. You were built with purpose, woven with passion and designed for impact. But none of that matters if you sleep through your potential. Wake up to your power, to your vision, to your responsibility, to the fact that someone out there needs the gift only you can give. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to move. Even a small step forward beats standing still in fear. Progress isn't about pace. It's about persistence. So tomorrow morning, when that alarm rings, hear it differently. Don't hear it as a call to get out of bed. Hear it as a call to rise into the life you're meant to lead. Wake up, not just early, but awake, fully, powerfully, intentionally, because your dreams aren't waiting. Your purpose isn't paused. And time is moving, with or without you. There's a moment in everyone's life when they hear that inner voice whispering all the reasons why something can't be done. I'm too old. I didn't grow up with money. I've failed too many times. Those voices sound so convincing, so rational. They show up when the stakes are high, when the dream feels too big, when the path ahead isn't clear. And rather than confront that uncertainty, we retreat. We let those reasons become our truth. But let's call them what they really are. Excuses. Convenient lies. Barriers we build to protect ourselves from discomfort, from fear, from growth. Excuses don't start out as lies. They often begin as facts. Maybe you are older than most. Maybe your childhood didn't include financial security. Maybe you've been knocked down more times than you can count. But the moment those facts become your identity, the moment they become your justification to stand still, that's the moment they turn into excuses. Because facts can explain your past, but they should never define your future. The danger of excuses isn't just that they keep you stuck, it's that they give you just enough comfort to justify not trying. They wrap you in the warm blanket of "it's not my fault," while slowly extinguishing the fire of potential inside you. Excuses feel safe. They let us off the hook. But safety doesn't create change. Comfort never sparked a revolution. And nobody ever built a meaningful life from a place of excuse. You weren't born to play small. You weren't put on this earth to be another echo of what didn't work. You are here to be a voice of what's possible. But that only happens when you stop blaming your circumstances and start owning your story. Truly owning it. That means no more outsourcing your power to your past. No more giving your narrative away to what was done to you. No more hiding behind what didn't happen for you. Because when you keep pointing at your circumstances, you miss the opportunity to realize how powerful you really are. Take a look at someone like Oprah, a woman who was born into poverty, endured unspeakable abuse, and faced rejection after she could have let those experiences define her. She could have said, "This is just how life is for someone like me," and no one would have blamed her. But she didn't. She chose to take those bricks thrown at her and build a foundation. She turned her pain into purpose, her wounds into wisdom, her story into strength. She didn't use her circumstances as a crutch. She used them as fuel. And so can you. What if the very thing you're most ashamed of is actually the thing that's going to connect you with others? What if your failures are the raw material for your greatness? What if your story, exactly as it is the key to your breakthrough? Not in spite of it, but because of it. The truth is, we all get knocked down. We all have scars, but our scars are not signs of weakness. They are evidence of survival. They show that we've been through the fire and came out on the other side. The only question is, what will you do with that? Will you use your scars as proof that you're broken, or as proof that you're still standing? Every single person has a decision to make. You can choose to be the victim of your history. You can choose to wear your setbacks like shackles and convince yourself that life just didn't deal you a fair hand. Or you can choose to be the author of your comeback. You can pick up the pen and write a new chapter. One that says, "Yes, I struggled. Yes, I fell. But I got up. I kept going. And I turned my pain into purpose." That's not easy. It takes courage to reject a comfortable narrative. It takes strength to look in the mirror and say, "No more excuses." But that's where freedom begins. That's where transformation begins. That's where the real you begins. Because there's something remarkable that happens when you stop running from your story and start standing in. When you stop pretending things didn't hurt and start using that hurt to heal others. When you stop comparing yourself to people who had a head start and start running your race like it's the only one that matters. That's when the shift happens. That's when excuses lose their power. That's when you finally stop living a life of limitation and start building a life of legacy. This isn't about perfection. This isn't about having all the answers. This is about responsibility. It's about choosing to take ownership of your path, regardless of where it began. You don't control how your story started, but you do control how it ends. And when you choose ownership over excuse, something incredible happens. You take back your power. You realize that your age doesn't disqualify you. It equips you. That growing up without money didn't limit your potential. It taught you resilience. That failure wasn't the end of your journey. It was the beginning of your education. Every experience becomes part of the narrative that makes you unstoppable. If you let so the next time you hear that voice in your head, the one that wants to talk you out of trying, remember this, that voice doesn't know what you're capable of. It's only trying to protect the version of you that hasn't seen what's possible yet. It's operating out of fear, and you've come too far to let fear hold the pen any longer. You don't need permission to rise. You don't need approval to evolve. You just need to stop letting excuses hold the microphone in your life. Silence them. Replace them with action. Replace them with intention. Replace them with the relentless pursuit of becoming who you were meant to be. Because at the end of the day, the world doesn't need another person who stayed safe. The world needs people who are willing to rise, to lead, to own their truth, and to show others that transformation is possible. Not because life was easy, but because they chose to stop making excuses and start living on purpose. You are not too old. You are not too broken. You are not too late. You are exactly where you need to be to begin again, not from scratch, but from experience. Not in spite of your past, but because of it. So own it. All of it. And write the story only you can write. If you want to fly like an eagle, you've got to stop hanging around pigeons. It sounds simple, almost cliche. But behind that simple truth lies one of the most powerful habits that can shape the course of your life. Who you surround yourself with, who you listen to, who you lean on, who you allow into your space will either elevate you or anchor you. There is no in-between. Every day, whether you realize it or not, your environment is shaping your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior. It's the silent architect of your mindset. We're taught to believe in personal responsibility, in grit, in the power of the individual to overcome. And yes, all of that is essential. But here's the truth few talk about. No matter how strong you are, no matter how driven, if the voices around you constantly speak in tones of defeat, cynicism, and complaint, they will begin to echo in your own mind, slowly, subtly, until you begin to believe the world really is as hopeless as they say. Negativity is a virus. It spreads without you noticing. It disguises itself as realism. It wears the mask of maturity. And soon you start using their words, their tone. What's the point? Nothing ever changes, just the way the world is. You start doubting your dreams. You start shrinking your vision. You start settling. Not because you're not capable, but because the people around you are whispering limitations into your ear every day. And you think it's your voice, but it's not. I've seen incredibly talented people with ideas that could reshape industries, people with hearts that could change lives, give up not because they weren't enough, but because they were surrounded by people who were too scared to believe in more. People who didn't have the courage to step into the unknown, so they mocked anyone who dared to try. That kind of environment is poison. It doesn't just steal your energy, it steals your future. But the good news is greatness is contagious too. Get around people who are obsessed with growth, people who are uncomfortable with average, people who ask better questions, people who dream so big it makes your goals feel small, and then they challenge you to rise with them. People who don't let you off the hook, people who say that excuse not good enough, people who celebrate your wins and then say, now what's next? That kind of energy is electric. It doesn't just lift you, it transforms you. Suddenly, you're thinking bigger. You're moving faster. You're taking risks, not because the path is easy, but because the people around you remind you why the fight is worth it. When you're surrounded by high standards, you start raising your own. When you're surrounded by integrity, you start telling yourself the truth. When you're surrounded by belief, you start seeing possibilities you didn't even know existed. But it takes courage to leave the comfort of the crowd, especially when the crowd is made up of people you've known for years. People who may have walked with you through hard times. People who care about you but don't understand you. And this is where most people get stuck. They know they need to change their environment, but they feel guilty for outgrowing it. Let me say this clearly. Outgrowing people doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you love your purpose enough not to let it die in the wrong soil. Not everyone is meant to go with you, and that's okay. Some people are lessons. Some are blessings. Some are warnings. You don't need to hate anyone to walk away. You don't need to argue or explain. You just need to be honest with yourself. Is this person pushing me forward or pulling me back? Are they reminding me of my power or feeding my fears? Are they giving me energy or draining it? We all deserve to be around people who see us not just for who we are, but for who we can become. People who believe in our potential more than our past. People who challenge us to be better, not just feel better. That's the environment where eagles are born. That's the environment where leaders rise. That's the environment where transformation happens. You weren't made to live in the shadows of small thinking. You weren't made to settle for circles that can't see your light. You weren't made to shrink so others can feel comfortable. You were made to soar, but you can't do that while tethered to the ground by the weight of complaints and excuses. So, what do? You get intentional. You start choosing your circle like your future depends on it. Because it does. You find the people who've done what you want to do. You sit at the tables where the conversations stretch you. You listen to the voices that make you brave, not bitter. You want to fly like an eagle. Stop hanging around pigeons. Find the eagles. Learn from them. Fly with them. And when you get your wings strong enough, be the eagle for someone else. Because this isn't just about escaping negativity. It's about creating momentum. It's about building a life so filled with purpose and passion that it becomes impossible for mediocrity to survive in your presence. It's about becoming someone who doesn't just dream, but dares, decides, and does. And when you do that, when you quit the company of complainers, when you step into a community of believers, builders, and bold thinkers, you won't just rise. You'll soar. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for a standing ovation that never comes. We live in a world where we're taught to measure our worth by the claps, likes, and nods of others. From the earliest age, we're trained to seek approval. Parents, teachers, friends, strangers, everyone becomes a mirror. We constantly check to see if we're enough. But what if I told you that chasing approval is the very thing keeping you average? What if the need to be liked is the anchor holding your greatness underwater? There's a quiet tragedy in shaping your life to meet the expectations of others. It's subtle, it's seductive, and it's dangerous. Because while you're busy curating a version of yourself that makes others comfortable, you're silencing the very parts of you that are built to disrupt, to challenge, to innovate, to lead. You're trimming your edges, rounding out your boldness, filtering your voice, all in hopes that someone will pat you on the back and say, "Good job." And the irony is, those people you're trying to please, they often don't even know what they want for themselves. Let me tell you something that's going to sting a little. Some people in your life, right now, don't want you to grow. Not because they're evil or bad people, but because your progress reminds them of their excuses. Your ambition shines a light on their apathy. Your discipline exposes their distractions. And your evolution confronts them with a terrifying question. Why not me? So what do? They diminish your dream. They tell you to be realistic. They pull away, not because you've done something wrong, but because watching you rise is too uncomfortable while they stand still. You see, growth has a strange side effect. It creates distance. The moment you begin to level up, really level up, you start to feel the gap between where you are and where you were. Some rooms that once felt warm now feel cold. Some friendships that once felt nourishing now feel drained. And it's tempting to shrink again, to lower your volume, to soften your glow, just to feel accepted. But let me ask you, what is the cost of fitting into a space you've outgrown? How much of your authenticity are you willing to sacrifice to stay comfortable? There's a certain kind of pain in leaving the familiar, in choosing to walk forward without applause, without guarantees, and sometimes without a single person cheering you on. But there's also power in that solitude. There's clarity. When the noise of approval fades, you begin to hear your own voice again. And that voice, that internal compass, it always knows the way. It tells you to keep going. even when no one gets it yet. It tells you to stand tall, even when you're shaky. It tells you that your value was never meant to be measured by someone else's comfort level. We think that greatness is about talent, timing, or luck. But it's not. Greatness begins the moment you stop needing to be liked. When you no longer contort yourself into shapes that please the crowd, you start to move differently. You walk into rooms not to be seen, but to serve. You speak not to impress, but to impact. You lead not to be followed, but to make something better. And in that shift, in that quiet rebellion against approval, your best performance begins. Don't get me wrong. Affirmation feels good. Encouragement is powerful. But it should never be your fuel. Because if applause is what drives you, then silence will destroy you. If being liked is your compass, then criticism will paralyze you. Your mission, your purpose, your calling, it must come from something deeper, something immovable, something that doesn't flinch when you're misunderstood, something that doesn't crumble when you're rejected. Because the truth is, rejection is not always a bad sign. Sometimes it's confirmation that you're finally being real. The world doesn't need more polished people. It needs more honest ones. People who are willing to be themselves in rooms that prefer math. People who are brave enough to stand firm when it would be easier to sit down. People who choose integrity over popularity. That kind of courage, it's contagious. It liberates others. When someone sees you living boldly, unapologetically, without seeking constant validation, they start to wonder, could I do that too? Every time you silence your truth to gain approval, you're not just betraying yourself, you're robbing the world of your contribution. Your unique voice, your vision, your fire, it was given to you for a reason. Not everyone will understand it. Not everyone will support it. And that's okay. You're not here to be universally liked. You're here to be effective. You're here to matter. And sometimes making a difference means standing alone, before you're ever followed. The truth is, the need for approval is a prison. A quiet, comfortable, well-decorated prison. But still a prison. And the key to freedom, it's radical self-acceptance. It's believing that who you are, right now without edits or applause, is enough. It's the decision to stop apologizing for your ambition. To stop waiting for someone to say go before you start. It's killing the need to be liked so you can start being true. There's a moment in every leader's life when they must choose applause or alignment. You can either keep chasing likes or you can chase legacy. You can keep bending to please people or you can rise and be the example. But you can't do both. One leads to mediocrity, the other to impact. One keeps you safe, the other sets you free. The moment you stop needing everyone's applause is the moment you finally take the stage, not to perform for approval, but to deliver purpose. That's when everything changes. That's when your best work begins. Not because someone told you you're good enough, but because you finally believed it yourself. Your mind is a garden. It sounds simple, maybe even cliche, but think about it. Every thought you allow in, every belief you nurture, every idea you entertain, it all takes root, and over time it grows. So the question is, are you planting weeds or are you planting wisdom? Because make no mistakes, something is growing either way, and what grows inside your mind will eventually show up in your life. Most people don't realize they are the gardeners of their own future. They walk around letting the world plant whatever it wants into their heads. The news, the gossip, the noise on social media, it's all seeds. Seeds of fear, seeds of distraction, seeds of comparison. And then they wonder why they feel stuck, why they feel anxious, why they lack clarity and purpose. It's because they've handed over the most powerful real estate in their lives, their minds, to the chaos of the world. We live in a time where information is infinite and yet wisdom is rare. It's not that we don't have access to knowledge. In fact, we've never had more access. The problem is we're not intentional with it. We consume, but we don't nourish. We scroll, but we don't study. We react, but we don't reflect. And because of that, we are overwhelmed instead of empowered, distracted instead of disciplined. Let me ask you something. What are you feeding your mind on a daily basis? Be honest. The average person spends over 2 hours a day on social media. That's 730 hours a year. Do you know what you could do with 730 hours? That's the equivalent of reading over 30. That's the time it takes to learn a new language, master a skill, or build a business. That's the time it takes to transform your life if you use it with intention. Now imagine this. What if you gave just half that time, just 1 hour a day, to feeding your mind something that actually serves you? 1 hour to read a book that shifts your perspective. 1 hour to listen to a podcast that challenges your thinking. 1 hour to watch a master class that builds your skill set. 1 hour a day doesn't sound like much, but over a year it adds up. It becomes your edge. It becomes your advantage. It becomes your leverage. Knowledge compounds. Just like money, it builds over time. It's stacked. And the more you learn, the more you earn. Not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually, relationally. What you learn today becomes the tool you use tomorrow to make better decisions, to lead with more clarity, to connect more deeply, to live more. Every book you read, every concept you wrestle with, every skill you sharpen, it's all currency for your future. People look at someone like Warren Buffett and think he's just a genius investor, but they forget what makes him one. He reads for 5 hours a day. That's not a side note. That's the foundation. He's not reading because he's bored. He's reading because he understands something most people overlook. The mind is the engine of your success. And if you don't fuel it, it stalls, it weakens, it rusts. You see, success isn't found in one massive action. It's built in the micro moments, the quiet hours, the consistent habits. And one of the most powerful habits you can form is investing in your mind every single day. Not just when it's convenient, not just when you feel like it, because here's the truth. Your future self is being built right now, not tomorrow, not next week. Right now, in the choices you make, in the thoughts you think, in the books you read, in the things you decide to ignore or absorb. Your future is not some far-off destination. It's shaped by the seeds you plant in this moment. And don't let anyone tell you they don't have time. We all have time. We just don't all have priorities. The same person who says they don't have time to read will spend 90 minutes a night binge watching a show they won't remember in 6 months. It's not about having time. It's about making it. Because if your mind truly matters to you, if your future truly matters to you, you'll find a way. Think about the people you admire, the ones who speak with conviction, who lead with vision, who create and innovate and inspire. You know what separates them from the rest. It's not luck. It's not talent. It's what they feed their mind. It's the daily discipline of learning, stretching, growing. That's their secret. That's their habit. We often think of habits as brushing your teeth, going to the gym, drinking water. But the most critical habit, the one that transforms everything else, is the habit of intentional learning. Because when your mind expands, your world expands. You begin to see opportunities others miss. You begin to solve problems that once overwhelmed you. You begin to build a life that reflects the quality of your thinking. And let me be clear, investing in your mind isn't about memorizing facts. It's about stretching your capacity. It's about training yourself to think deeper, to listen better, to question more, to connect dots others don't even see. It's about becoming the kind of person who brings clarity into chaos, who sees through the noise, who builds things that last. It's also about protection. We talk a lot about physical health, but mental health starts with mental input. You can't feed your brain junk every day and expect to feel strong, centered, focused. What you consume mentally either lifts you or limits you. And in a world that profits off your attention, you have to guard your mind like it's sacred, because it is. So if your mind is a garden, what do you want to see bloom? Peace, creativity, confidence, then plant accordingly. Choose books that challenge you. Choose mentors who stretch. Choose silence when the noise is too loud. Choose growth, even when it's uncomfortable. Because the greatest investment you will ever make is in the quality of your thinking. Everything else flows from that. At the end of the day, your mind is your greatest asset. It's the lens through which you experience the world. It's the foundation of every decision, every relationship, every goal. So don't let it go untended. Don't let it be shaped by default. Shape it by design, one day at a time. one page at a time, one lesson at a time. Because what you feed your mind today becomes your power tomorrow. Most people wait. They wait for the right moment, for the perfect mood, for that spark of inspiration that will make everything clear. They wait for motivation, like it's some kind of magical force that will lift them from the couch and push them to greatness. But the truth is, motivation is unreliable. It's fleeting. It's like catching lightning in a bottle, bright and powerful, but gone before you know it. You can't build a life, a legacy, or a future on something that disappears with the weather. Motivation is that surge you feel after watching an inspiring video. It's the fire you get when someone says the right thing at the right time. It's exciting, it's loud, it's dramatic, and it doesn't last. Because when the alarm goes off at 5 a.m. and it's dark outside, motivation is still asleep. When life punches you in the face and you're exhausted, drained, doubting everything you once believed, motivation doesn't pick you back up. It's nowhere to be found. You don't rise to the occasion in those moments. You fall. You fall to the level of your preparation, your habits, your discipline. Discipline is the silent force that shows up when motivation doesn't. It's the quiet commitment that says, I'll do it anyway, not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about your excuses. It just moves. It just works. It just shows up. Imagine a world where people didn't wait to feel ready, where showing up wasn't a question of mood, but a matter of identity. That's the power of discipline. It's not about pushing harder when you feel strong. It's about moving forward when you feel weak. It's about doing the work, not for the dopamine rush or the applause, but because that's who you are. Because you've trained for this. That's why athletes train in the off-season. That's why soldiers drill endlessly, even when there's no war in sight. Because under pressure, you won't rise to the occasion. You will fall to the level of your training. And if you haven't trained for the hard days, they'll break you. If you haven't built the muscle of discipline, you'll fold the moment motivation disappears. And trust me, we've glamorized motivation and made discipline look cold. We chase the emotional high and reject the routine. But the people we admire, the ones who lead, who endure, who build, they don't rely on motivation. They've built lives on discipline. They've learned to do what needs to be done, regardless of how they feel. That's where greatness lives. Not in bursts of brilliance, but in daily decisions. Not in inspiration, but in repetition. Discipline is quiet. It doesn't post on social media. It doesn't wait for validation. It wakes up early. It stays late. It repeats the same small actions over and over again, knowing that those actions compound into something extraordinary. Discipline is the friend that walks with you when no one's watching. It's the promise you keep to yourself long after the mood you made it in has faded. And yes, it's hard. Discipline is hard. It requires saying no when it's easier to say yes. It means waking up when your body says sleep. It means pushing forward when your mind says quit. It's uncomfortable. It's inconvenient. It's even lonely. But comfort never created excellence. Convenience never forged resilience. No one remembers the person who almost tried. The world doesn't reward potential. It rewards proof. And proof comes from discipline. You don't get to greatness by feeling your way through life. You get there by choosing the hard path over and over again, until the hard path becomes your normal, until discomfort becomes familiar, until you've built a life where showing up no matter what is just what you do. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who inspire you, who move you, who lead with purpose. They're not superheroes. They don't have unlimited energy or endless motivation. They've simply made a decision to be consistent, to be disciplined, to show up every single day. That's the difference. That's what separates average from exceptional. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not even passion. It's discipline. Passion gets you started. Discipline keeps you going. And it's in the going, the consistent, relentless, uncomfortable going, that greatness is forged. You don't get to skip that part. You don't get to shortcut your way around discipline. If you want the outcome, you have to embrace the process. You have to show up when it's boring, when it's hard, when it's thankless. You have to become the kind of person who does what's necessary, not what's convenient. So stop waiting to feel like it. Stop hoping for the right moment. Start acting like the person you want to become. Train your mind to do the work, even when your heart isn't in it. Build a system that doesn't depend on your mood, because the mood will fade. But the results will. The life you build through discipline becomes the proof that you don't need to feel like doing something in order to do it well. And if you stumble, if you fall, good, that's part of it. Discipline doesn't mean perfect. It means persistent. You fall, you rise, you show up again, because you've decided that this is who you are. And who you are truly is defined not by what you say, but by what you do when no one is watching. When it's hard, when it's quiet, when no one will applaud your effort, but you do it anyway. That's the edge. That's the secret. Not motivation, not emotion, but action. Repeated, relentless, disciplined. And when you live that way, when you commit to that path, something incredible happens. You become unstoppable, not because it's easy, but because you've chosen to be unbreakable. You've trained, you've prepared, you've built something that doesn't rise to the occasion, but never falls below the standard. Your standard. That's the power of discipline. That's where greatness begins. Imagine waking up tomorrow with only the things you were grateful for today. Really sit with that for a second. What would you have left? The roof over your head, the people you love, your health, your breath, or would it all be gone because, like so many of us, you forgot to stop and say thank you? We live in a world that constantly whispers to us that we're behind, that we're lacking, that we need to do more, be more, earn more, have more, that if we're not grinding every moment, we're failing. So we hustle, we scroll, we compare, we chase, and in that frantic pursuit of what's next, we forget to notice what's now. We overlook the miracle of the moment we're already living in. But here's the truth. You can't be miserable and grateful at the same time. The two cannot exist in the same emotional space. They cancel each other out. Gratitude doesn't just shift our perspective. It rewires our brains, transforms our hearts, and restores our sense of what really matters. Because gratitude is not passive. It's not a fluffy emotion you feel when things go right. It's a habit, a discipline, a radical decision to see the good, even when the good feels hard to find. You woke up today? That's a win. Not because everything is perfect, not because you've figured it all out, but because waking up is the first victory of the day. You have breath in your lungs, a heart that beats without your permission, a mind capable of choosing a new thought, a voice that can speak life, or truth, or comfort. These are not small things. These are extraordinary gifts, disguised as everyday occurrences. You have a chance, right now, to do better than yesterday, to forgive someone you didn't forgive, to say the words you held back, to show up with courage, with kindness, with fight, to be present with the people in your life who matter. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment. The moment you have is perfect enough to begin again. Harvard researchers studied this. They found that people who practiced daily gratitude had stronger immune systems. They slept better. They had lower levels of anxiety, and they were 25% happier. That's not a coincidence. That's biology catching up to the soul. That's science confirming what our hearts already know. Gratitude is a medicine. It heals. It centers. It reminds us that there is still beauty in this world worth fighting for. And yet we treat gratitude like a bonus, like something we only need when things are good. But gratitude isn't a reward. It's a lifeline. When everything feels like it's unraveling, when the storms roll in, when life punches you in the gut and leaves you breathless, gratitude is the hand that steadies you. It anchors you to what is still right, still solid, still worth holding on. Let me be clear. This doesn't mean you deny your pain. It doesn't mean you pretend everything's fine when it's not. It means you hold both, the pain and the beauty, the sorrow and the blessing. Gratitude is not about ignoring the darkness. It's about choosing to light a candle anyway. We often think happiness is something we find once we achieve enough, accomplish enough, or prove enough. But it's not that happy people are grateful. It's that grateful people become happy. Happiness is a byproduct of awareness, of pausing long enough to say, wow, I get to be here. I get to do this, even on the hard days, especially on the hard days. Because when you live from a place of gratitude, your world doesn't just change. It expands. You start noticing the details, the smile from a stranger, the warmth of your coffee, the way your dog greets you like you're the hero in every movie ever made. You begin to see life, not as something that's happening to you, but something that's happening for you. And that shift, that's everything. Gratitude shifts your posture from clenched fists to open hands, from scarcity to abundance, from complaining to celebrating. And over time, it becomes who you are, not just what you do, but how you live, how you lead, how you love. You want to change your life. Start by counting your wins, not your worries. Keep a journal. Whisper thanks under your breath. Tell the people you love that you're thankful for them. Not later, not when it's convenient, but now. Let your default be appreciation. Let your presence be your gratitude, made visible. Because we don't remember days. We remember moments. And the most beautiful moments often happen when we stop to say thank you. Thank you for this breath. Thank you for this chance. Thank you for this life. And the more you practice gratitude, the more it will find you. In the quiet, in the chaos, in the parts of your story you thought were too broken to hold any beauty. You'll see it in the struggle. You'll see it in the people who show up when it's hard. You'll see it in yourself, in your resilience, your grit, your grace. This is what it means to practice gratitude. Relentless. It means you don't wait for the perfect conditions. You make it your default setting, your battle cry, your sacred rhythm. Because life is short and precious and painfully unpredictable. And if we're not careful, we'll miss it. We'll miss the small joys that add up to a big life. We'll miss the love we're standing in. We'll miss the chance to leave something beautiful behind, simply because we were too focused on what wasn't working. Gratitude is how we remember what's still possible. It's how we hold on to hope when the world tells us to let go. It's how we stay human in a time that often feels anything but. So take a breath and let that breath be your reminder. You're still here. You still matter. You still have something to give. That's not just enough. It's everything. Listen to me. Your life won't change overnight, but it will change with the decisions you make every night. You don't need luck. You need alignment. Replace delay with action. Replace blame with responsibility. Replace fear with faith. Change these 7 habits, and you won't just change your life. You'll rewrite your legacy. Now the only question left is, are you ready? Because your future is